Mark Miller here again with part 2 of an interview with an author, Diane McPhee. And what this portion of the interview is going to be about is something that our publisher came up with to help with marketing of our created books. And that is something that's coming about in popularity again, are card games. And maybe there was a resurge due to COVID and people were stuck at home or whatever. But people are definitely into card games. You now have a more of a modern card game version of Dungeons and Dragons and a whole bunch of other type of games. And so Diane has brought a copy of a card game that she has created with Blue Forge Press. So if you want to explain kind of the whole process as to how you came up with this.
Jennifer asked me to write 3,000 words, a mystery, 3,000 words was the limit, and make it into a card game. So what she asked me to do was to write 100 words per card and continue the game, the story, as it goes along. This is an intricate game, I believe, and I'm not really that much of a gamer, but there are things in this game that are interesting and make the game move along.
Yeah.
You have 4 characters.
Okay.
So I have Detective Alan Sharp, Detective Mendez, Enrique Mendez, Officer Connie Beale, and then I have a homeless person. Okay. And the story goes along that there has been a policeman has been killed, and a homeless person finds the policeman in the tunnel of the subway. Mm-hmm. And so the story, the investigation begins. They call Alan Sharp to investigate. Right. He brings his crew in, and they start following people. They are going after the homeless community in this because they feel like there's something involved, there's some involvement there.
And this is in the city of Boston?
This is in the city of Boston, okay. Right. And so as you follow the card game, you find out, you know, where they're going, where they have to go. And in the winter, it is the dead of winter, it is so cold that winter becomes a character.
Okay.
And so they're trying to fight that along with trying to find out who killed this policeman.
And so this is a card game involving a whodunit. Right. Which to a certain extent is kind of like the old board game Clue, but more complicated.
That could be. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And so to add to the game, you have conflict cards and bonus cards. Okay, so like a conflict, a bonus card could be, this is a bonus card, a knife used for camping, cooking, and protection. So you have a knife, okay, that is that you will draw. The bonus cards and the conflict cards are put into the deck randomly. Right. So when you get to that card, you've got to do something. So you see this dice. Yeah. This is what's important in the game. You would read the first card, and it would say at the very end of the card, test charisma or test dexterity. If you notice on each character card, there's a list of characteristics.
Oh, okay. Abilities and stuff.
Abilities, right. And so with a number. And so if you say like you're going to test charisma, and Officer Beale says, well, I've only got 5 points for charisma. And so she's got to test that. She's got to roll the dice, either get a 5 or under a 5. And if she can't do it, it goes to the next player. And they say, oh, let's see, I've got, for charisma, I've got 14. And so that's how the game is, moves along.
But it's like going back to the old Clue game, because that's something that I grew up with. That was probably one of the first whodunit games they created. I think it was Milton Bradley did it, that actually enabled you to play it and try to come up with it. Right. So in this case, you'd have a knife with Colonel Mustard in the library.
Right.
But in this case, it'd be the knife in the Boston
Right.
a subway or something,
Right.
or in somebody's homeless encampment, or in a hotel or something like that.
Right, right. But
And-
it's random throughout the
Right,
card game.
exactly.
Okay.
And
It's
so-
just pushing the game along.
Right. And so how do you win at the game? Or is there such a thing as being a winner at the game?
This is interesting.
Yeah.
Because my son told me how to do this.
Okay.
Okay.
Your
You
son's
start
the
with
gamer.
markers, right.
Yeah.
You start with markers. Okay,
Right.
so each of you have 10 markers. Okay, now
Yeah.
I chose 10 pennies, and so we each had 10 pennies.
Yeah.
Well, every time you lose on this dice,
Yeah.
you got to throw the penny in, and if you lose all of your markers, you're out.
You're out of the game.
Right, and the person who ends up with the most markers wins. How
So
easy
it-
is that?
Cool. And so it's in that way, it's like Monopoly, where you go around the board and you lose all your property because you keep landing on other people's property
Right.
with high rents. And so
Yeah.
you're out of the game.
Right,
If you
right.
go in debt.
You
So it's the
lose
same
them
idea.
and you're gone. Right,
Cool, okay.
right, right. And then they have this little circle here, you know, that there's this little cutout.
Yeah.
And apparently Blue Forge has this as their patent is on this.
Oh, okay.
And so when you have, let me get one that'll show. When you get a bonus card
Yeah.
and you win the bonus card,
Yeah.
that gem shows through. So it's like a +4. You get to add more points to your ability.
Okay.
So that's,
But do you get back any of your markers?
no, you don't get back
So
your
once you
markers.
lose a marker, that's it.
That's it.
But so you have a limited amount of markers or abilities or characters, what do you want to call it, you can use up. And once they're gone, they're gone.
They're gone.
You're out of the game. You can't
Right.
get any additional ones.
No.
You can't,
No,
pass go to get $200, something like that. Can't
no,
do
no.
that.
But the game goes on for quite a long time because you're reading all of the mission, okay? And not everyone is going to play their ability. Not everyone is going to. But let's say that the first person says, okay, I lost my marker. The second person tries and they lost their marker. When you come to something like a conflict card, oh, this is a bonus card, you play 3 things. So you have to play charisma, faith, and intellect. You have
Right.
to try all of those. And so throwing the dice for all of those, okay, and you'll say that you lose. Like, okay, the next person has to
Yeah.
try charisma, faith, and they have
do
to
the
win
same
every
thing.
single one of them.
Yeah. And so do you wind up solving
The mystery.
the mystery at the end of the game, or is it just the purpose behind the game is the game?
At the end of the mission cards, it's solved, okay, but the purpose of the game is the game. But you do solve, you don't have to solve it. It's already solved in the mission cards. This is a
Okay,
story.
well,
This
yeah.
is a story.
Well, then question is, then if you get to the final mission card and you have more than one person still existing, in other words,
Everyone's still got markers?
yeah, everybody still got
Okay.
markers.
I don't know.
Okay, Jennifer, you're going to have to tell us. We have to figure this out. But it is, like I said, it's about the gaming community, which over the years has made a resurgence.
Right.
I'm an old gamer. I used to play war games back in the late 60s, early 70s, tabletop games, stuff like that. And of course, we grew up with, like I said, Clue and all these other, Monopoly, Risk, all these other games that we,
Yeah.
came up with Milton Bradley and company, and they must have developed thousands of games, and we still have dozens of them in existence. But there's been a resurgence of the game. And this is a way for people then to be introduced to your books and the characters that you developed in the books and have fun doing it.
Right. Right. There's more to the book, of course.
Oh,
So
of
much
course,
more.
yeah.
And in fact, the book will end differently than this
Oh.
game. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, then if the book ends differently, will they maybe modify the card deck later on and
I don't know.
have game version 2 or something?
Maybe.
Maybe.
Right.
Well, it's interesting because it's, like I said, she's talked with me. We both have the same publisher. She's talked with me about it because I got a sci-fi series, but I haven't gotten around to try to figure out how to do that, and everything, because it'll be more, I guess it's action oriented because it's about an alien invasion as opposed to trying to solve a crime.
Right.
So that's going to be the interesting thing, how we're going to turn it into a cardboard game, as opposed to something where you're moving pieces around and everything like that.
Right.
So how many side die is this?
20.
This is a 20 side die.
Right.
Jesus.
Right.
I knew they used to have all those fancy dice to throw and try to get the.
Yeah, I think they're kind of cool.
Well,
I'm not sure. Like in terms of the game, this is almost like a red herring for my book. You know what I mean? It's like it could go this way, but it's not going to in my book.
Oh.
It could go this way. So I see what you mean about not following exactly the book.
And then
I
maybe,
didn't want it
well,
to.
I mean, it then gives you the optional creativity. They did some experiments years ago. Some people did with. You read a book, or you start a story, and some of them they're online stuff. Well, by making certain choices, you could go off on another tangent.
Right.
And like stuff like that. I never was into that. And that actually was almost like a game also, where, okay, if you take this action, if you have the main character take this action, this is going to change the story.
Right.
Okay.
My students loved those books.
Oh, really?
They loved them.
Oh, geez,
yes.
that would drive me nuts.
So that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
I mean, kids who play this game. And like I said, my son, just thought it was great. He thought it was a great game. But some people, they live for that, the possibilities, I guess.
Well, that's true, and it is a game. And I know, that, like I said, especially then when they started doing video games, and I got a friend of mine who's a teacher, and he's into a lot of the video games. And now the video games, the shoot 'em up, bang bang, player games, stuff like that. They give you options where you can suddenly take a character off on a different tangent, especially if you achieve a certain level of success, then you can go off in a different storyline or a modification of the storyline.
Like an adventure, or investigate. Or no, what would it?
No, this has more to do like with a lot of the post-apocalyptic, fighting aliens, shooting bad guys, fighting evil beings, and all this stuff where you're running around and you're trying to, in some of the games, they create this huge world map of these video games. Okay. And the pieces of the world, you can go off. You literally, that's almost like a different sub-story. And the hero, heroine, whoever, protagonist can bounce around, and then depending on how successful you are, you then can, okay, I achieved this level, therefore I now can transport to this part of the game that I didn't have access to before, type stuff. And I know that if I got into that type of gaming, I mean, I would disappear. Because you get so wrapped up in that, just like when they first came out with flight simulation games, people are just going nuts with it because, oh my God, I can fly the plane, type stuff.
Right.
Which is different, of course, from this, because this is more of a process game where you're trying to solve a crime. But in this case, you're trying to be the last survivor during the investigation. You didn't lose all your markers. In other words, you didn't fail in your portion of the criminal investigation.
No,
Okay.
you don't.
They didn't send you back for training.
No. Nothing like that.
Please, you screwed that up.
Right.
We're going to put you on a desk for the next month. Now, type stuff.
No. And it can be different every time, and so depending on, what card you get, or if you get a conflict card instead of a bonus card.
We're going to have to ask her if she's done the math on it to see the possibility, how many possible quote unquote solutions or results
Right.
there are. And then, you know, with, you said there's what, 30 cards?
There's
about?
30 cards.
30
right.
cards. Because then that adds the variations of combinations of cards and how many players can you play with total?
You can play with one. You can play by yourself and play all the cards.
Yeah.
You know, if you want to.
Or you can play with
play with four.
four
Three.
players.
We played with three.
But four is the max because you got 4 characters.
But we have an extra card. You can make your own character.
Oh, now
there's
you're
a
really
blank.
complicating it.
Yeah. So there's 5. There's 5.
Okay.
Yeah, you can make your own character.
Well, that's interesting.
This is the card where you can make your own character.
And so you can make your own characteristics and everything.
Right.
I could make a federal agent card.
Yes.
Who comes in and
you
tries to
could.
take all the
And,
investigation.
right.
Yeah.
And so
That'd be interesting.
Right.
Okay. So then she's added some
So 5
more
cards.
abilities for randomness, I guess you'd call it.
right. And you do your own numbers here too.
Let me see. I got to read this on the back. I'm curious. Okay, this is an example. This is mission card number 30, and I'm going to read this online. DS, which stands for Detective Sergeant Sharp, sees you standing at his office door. He motions you in, commanding. That was fast thinking to snap that photo. We already knew him, but once the photo got around, he officially became our suspect. He claims that Officer Wagner caught him stealing and followed him into the tunnel. He said he was defending himself because Wagner was roughing him up. But he has no bruises, unlike Wagner. When you leave the precinct, you see Trevor on the street. But the sun is blinding you wide over the snow, and when you look again, he's gone. And then they have a test charisma. But that's the description and detail that is part of the game that you need to do to be able to continue on with the quest
Right.
of finding the
Right.
the perpetrator of the crime.
Right.
type
Right.
stuff. But when you finish the book, have you got any idea how you're going to finish it yet?
It's done.
It's done.
Yeah. It's being edited right now.
Okay, so how many? Let me think. How can I do this without giving away the whole plot? How many possible suspects do you kind of throw in there?
Into my book.
Yeah, total, approximately.
In this particular book, there are 4.
4. Okay.
4. Yes.
And you are doing it like a whodunit again,
Right.
so that the reader has to figure out the
Right.
clues.
Right.
And at the very end, like they used to do with the Ellery Queen and the Hardy Boys and some of the other books I grew up with, you have the reveal moment where the senior hero, heroine, protagonist, whatever you want to call it, explains why so-and-so, why Colonel Mustard killed Miss Peacock
Right.
with the candlestick in the study. And then he explains it all out.
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
then, of course, you can either have a thrilling ending where the guy tries to escape and you have a big fight or everything. Or you can have simply the simple ending where the guy just gives up. You caught me, But that was kind of a lot of the endings they had back then. They didn't, once the reveal came up, that was kind of the end of the story. It didn't have a lot of backstory and stuff.
Right. Right.
But yeah, no, this is interesting. And once again, you're reaching out to a separate group of people, the gaming community, as a means to be exposed to your creation.
Right.
And maybe by playing the game, then they'll get into the books.
Right.
Maybe the books will get them into the game, vice versa,
Great.
and everything. So, interesting. And the game is out. And how would somebody obtain a copy of the game?
Blue Forge.
Okay.
Blue Forge.
So you go through Blue Forge
Mm-hmm.
and through their, I guess you call it semi-retail process, where they can
And
get.
it's on the back of the.
Oh, okay. What's it say? You got a minute? Okay, Blue Forge Gaming, www.blueforgegaming.com. And SRP suggested retail price is $16.99. Now I imagine when Diane is out signing her books, if she has any of these copies of the games, she may sell them at a slight discount like the rest of us do at the venues. So
right.
you'll have to keep an eye out. By the way, I forgot to ask you during the first part of the interview, do you have any upcoming venues where you're going to be signing books and stuff at?
No, I was just at Woodinville.
At the Woodinville Barnes and Nobles,
right,
yeah.
right. And so I think that's it for this year.
But you're going to be coming for next year.
Right.
And you'll have to contact Kitsap Literary Arts and Writers because we're trying to come up with some additional venues. And of course, we'll have next year Blackberry Festival and the county fair.
Right.
And you might want to think about getting a spot at one of our tables.
Right.
And
sounds good.
And so we can bring your books. So that's going to be the end of part 2 of the interview with Diane McPhee and her excellent whodunit books with Alan Sharp, the detective. Once again, we want to thank the Bremerton Kitsap Access Television staff for helping us with the studio production, because without them, this showcase show would not exist. And we have all of our own shows posted up on YouTube under the KLAW page. Go look up at Tiny CC, and then you can eventually find the KLAW YouTube section and see. I think we've got just about every one of our old shows up there that we interviewed. Painters, authors, creatives, you name it. You can watch the shows, though. This show particularly will be broadcast on Wave Cable Astound Channel 3 and Comcast Channel 12, 6 o'clock and 6:30 every Saturday. And of course, we have floating around an old Halloween show, and you have Christmas shows and a whole bunch of other additional special shows. We exist, Kitsap Literary Arts and Writers exist to help all forms of artists, whether it be authors, filmmakers, painters, you name it, to get their created products out there to the public and let them see what they can do. So hopefully you enjoyed this broadcast, and hopefully you'll start looking for the Den of Winter games for all you gamers out there. Have a nice day, have a pleasant tomorrow, and have a productive year. Good day.